Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's currently Wednesday, September 26, 2012, and this is Day 9 Daily number 505, where we learn to be a better gamer. It has been 101 episodes since Daily number 404, Daily Not Found, a protest against SOPA. It's a good thing that 101 episodes later, there is nothing to worry about in terms of threatening internet freedom. Ah, that's right. We still play StarCraft. We still love dat game. We still continue to strive onward to be the best of the best. If you're watching live, you're watching on Twitch. If you're watching on the archives, you should watch on Twitch. Oh, it just says which. There we go. Twitch. Sorry, my firm pec was keeping the shirt folded. I missed you sincerely yesterday. I had a really cool topic prepared, but alas, I will not be able to do it yesterday because my throat was sick. The rest of me felt kind of fine, but it hurt to talk a lot. The other thing it hurt to do a lot was to smile because I cut myself shaving. I don't know if you can see it, like right there on the lip. I don't know if any of you have ever been trying to sing a song while you shave. And by the way, this is about 1 day of growth. I'm a very hairy man, in case you didn't know! So I was shaving and I was singing along to this great song by Metronomy called She Wants. And I cut my lip because I was trying to sing and shave at the same time. I was like, and every hour, like doing that. So it hurt to the point where I couldn't smile. But I was still watching South Park. So I was smiling a lot. I don't know if you've ever been around someone when you've cut your lip and they tell a joke, but you're like, that's so funny. It hurts so bad. Oh, it's the worst pain ever. Fortunately, the throat pain is gone. The lip pain is gone. We're going to do this topic and talk a little bit about how we're going to be reigniting Newbie Tuesday in the month of October. Yeah. Are there any announcements to make? I'm playing in the Return to Ravnica pre-release this weekend. Oh, yeah. You're probably thinking, what guild? I'm going to be doing the Black-Green Guild and the Black-Red Guild, because black is my favorite color in Magic. Ha! And without any further ado, let's talk about the topic of today's Daily. In today's Daily, we are going to be looking at an amazing game between EG's Stephano and Liquid's TaeJa from Dreamhack. It's one of these games that is unusually long for the map. It's on Ohana. It is a 38-minute game. We will obviously be talking about the opening because I'm not going to be doing something like starting at the 10-minute mark and pretend you understand what happened here. We'll certainly talk about the openings and the significance of it, but the big thing I want to emphasize is all the fanciness that goes on in the mid and late game with two big things. One is something I talk about a lot, unit movement and how it relates to expanding. That'll always happen in mid and late game discussions, but more importantly is point two. The second point is that we're going to be exploring this idea of compositions in different circumstances. Now, there's something that many Terrans fall victim to that's really common. Actually, this was extremely common in Brood War. It is, that's a great way to make a point. I actually took a sip of my coffee and thought, I didn't put enough sugar in there. And that was enough to break my train of thought. This coffee, I normally take it black with cinnamon. But I decided to put in a little sugar with the cinnamon. It's just not, I didn't think it was enough. And then I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh yes, compositions. So here's the way people traditionally think about compositions. The best mix in Protoss versus Zerg is Colossus Stalker with a couple sentries and a couple immortals. They make this statement as it is an end goal. They state it as the composition you want to wind up with. So sometimes people will be sophisticated enough to say things like, in the mid-game, you want Marine Tank Medevac. And then when he starts going hive, you want to incorporate Vikings and Marauders. Yeah. Again, though, it's kind of stated in this end-game context. The end composition. This game is going to showcase a very, very, very sophisticated thing that really only the best of the best are good at, which is replenishment compositions. Let's say we want to wind up in the end game with Marine, Tank, Marauder, Viking. Sure, some medevacs, but in terms of attacking units, Marine, Marauder, Tank, Viking. Marine, Marauder, Tank, Viking. That's what we want to wind up with. We've just lost our whole army. what do we replenish first? A lot of Terrans are guilty of just spamming all their production facilities. They're just like, oh, I lost it. Well, let me just tank in my 3 factories, mass Marine, mass Viking. And then they hit around 130 food, and they have this weird-looking army that has like 8 Vikings, 20 Marines, and 6 tanks, and 2 medevacs, when really, it should probably have more Marines and less Vikings. We're going to explore this concept in these games because they trade armies so many times that you get to see exactly how they're replenishing as they build up their new armies, so we can steal it and use it for our own. We'll be looking at it from both sides. I sophisticatedly enabled the sound. Is it loud? I was trying to play earlier today, and holy cow, did that go badly. I was actually in a fantastic mood going into those games. I thought I was going to play great, and oh my god, I misclicked frickin' everything. I was like trying to force field my ramp, and I'd like turn on Purifier on the mothership and be like, I didn't select you! I wanted to like rip my face off. It's really hard to energize a sentry when you have just turned something into a Purifier beam. So right now we have TaeJa in the bottom right corner on Ohana and Stephano in the top left corner. And both players are going to do things that are pretty typical in terms of the opening. I'll just gloss over it because this game is super duper long. TaeJa goes ahead and does his usual little 1-racks wall off with an early expand, not building the second depot for a while. Really good, so we can get up our command center a little earlier. Moving things right along, early expand out of Stephano because he has scouted no barracks in particular here. This is a significant scout pattern for the Overlord because oftentimes this watchtower's vision will stretch to just barely around here. So Terrans like to build 2 cheesy barracks there. Oh, so cool. We have contingency plan Overlord having covered it. So we get away with building 2 more drones and we follow it up with a spawning pool. Excellent. Second Overlord again. The contingency Overlord. Is he trying to do some cheesy bullshit to me somewhere? Looks like no. And TaeJa, of course, knows that Overlords like to try to get down here and then sneak their way into there. He is not going to stand for any of that. Yeah, so here is the later second depot, and TaeJa going triple command center right off the bat. Now I want to step away and just do some theory discussion right now. Triple command center makes us weak now and strong later. So everything else we do should be consistent with that theme. It should be things that either prevent us from being weak now by buying us time, and they should be things that help us later. So for instance, if we got a really fast third command center, and then we went for 6 barracks, that's bad, because 6 barracks makes us strong now and weak later. Weak later because we weren't getting gas, weren't getting upgrades, weren't doing other cool things. That contrasts sharply with this early orbital command. In fact, one of the biggest things when people are doing new builds or experimental builds, when they'll throw in things like this, the rest of it isn't consistent. So when we think, okay, what is good with an early command center? Something delay-focused like Hellions, probably going to be good for delay. Probably don't want to be doing too much run-by action with them since they're our delay tool. Probably want to be getting upgrades early. Some real basics. Again, nothing too outrageous at the start of the game. Stephano's going to open up by doing this no gas thing. Cool fact, a lot of Terran players have been scouting no gas, no gas. And you know what they do? They just build a third command center right there. Which is kind of cool because Zergs are getting a little greedy nowadays. Well, I don't want to say greedy, but Zergs are falling into this line of just getting 4 queens and taking a fast third. Queens are amazing at defense and very bad at offense. It's very hard for a 4-queen rush to freak a Terran out in the early game. So you'll see a lot of Terrans nowadays just straight taking this third base. So send a Zergling there in the early case anyways. Breathing coffee is very difficult for humans. Another thing is that if you see no gas, you can generally get away with getting your geysers and your third command center up before the bunker. So that's one of the big reasons TaeJa got a bunker right now. I would honestly say that this is probably the biggest difference between the mid Grandmasters and super high Grandmasters. Mid Grandmasters will have a tendency to have an amazing build, like a 3 command center build like this, and they'll sort of autopilot always build the bunker. But super mega Grandmasters like TaeJa, I don't even know if there's something beyond Grandmaster in terms of ladder descriptions. Maybe like he's like a Super Saiyan Terran, I guess I'd say. I think that's reasonable enough. I would say GSL Code S, but let's be honest, there's a good number of those players who are still masters on the Korean server, because there can only be 200 in the Grandmaster region. Isn't that a funny thought? There are actually some GSL Code S players who've only ever been masters. Huh. I guess, again, this emphasizes the notion that the ladder is not a measure of skill, it's a measure of progress. But that's sort of like a mathematical theory digression. Derp, 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 derp. But yeah, so TaeJa, in terms of skill, is totally Super Saiyan. So we do see TaeJa just doing a kind of standard maneuver, just getting up this barracks. Here's something really interesting. Again, most players are delaying their gas, so suddenly, total BS like this becomes quite good. Reveal themselves, builds the bunker right there. Queen defense, easily going to be able to deal with Hellions, easily going to be able to deal with Marines at the front, but bunker pressure at the third, these are all ways of exploiting that Zergs are doing this sort of shenaniganry. So Stephano gets his cancel up, and we see TaeJa transitioning into the it control build for Terran lately. Just Hellion Banshee straight up. Nothing fancy, just Hellion Banshee. Just Hellion Banshee. So TaeJa being cool. Nothing too exceptional at this point. Stephano's doing a smart adjustment. Since I couldn't take my third, I'm just gonna do everything that I was doing before. I was gonna get these double Evo chambers anyway. I'll still get them. I was gonna get my third hatch at this expansion. I'll get it anyways, but I'll use it as a macro hatch. I'm so proud of that rhyme. Nothing fancy. Hellion Banshee. This moment kind of made me go, ah, or as Bane would say, Mr. Wayne. Getting these up, I kind of, it made me do one of these like sort of things like when a dog is trying to please you, it's trying to understand your commands, but it just can't, and it's just doing one of those. That's what happened when I saw that, because this is one of these consistency issues that I'm talking about, where 3 barracks pressure is good if you can do it early. It's weak if you can do it late. 3 barracks pressure allows you to crush somebody who doesn't have enough defenses. So part of me is just like, well, why are we doing this after we went for a 3rd command center? It's going to be a little bit delayed. So, I mean, you're going to get the 3 barracks anyways. It's not like I'm looking at TaeJa playing and I'm going like, what a total dumbass. What a subhuman, gross person. Yeah, there we go. Nice improv, Day 9. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he's terrible. I'm just saying these are the considerations to be made when there's an early 3rd command center. However, TaeJa immediately sort of backs it up by doing just a slight tweak. What is most common with Hellion Banshee is to get 2 engineering bays super early, or 2 armories super early, those sorts of things. But the rest of it is pretty... sorry, I lost my train of thought. Ordinarily, players will use this bunker / Hellion Banshee mixture to buy time. So getting these engineering bays super early is the most common thing, or armories for upgrades. So TaeJa just sort of sneaks in 2 barracks and then goes for this. So for the most part, everything of his build is consistent. He's just going to be using this marine and soon enough medevac mixture to buy himself more space. This is pretty common. So Stephano is going to be doing a super interesting little technique here in a moment. He is getting his really awesome Ling upgrades. And this is something Nerchio has been doing a lot, favoring stupid numbers of Zerglings instead of just some Zerglings. Most players use Zerglings as a, well, I have money left over, may as well make them, instead of really investing in them. But when down on this third base, there's a double expand that a lot of players have been doing at 9 when they've been unable to take a third, that I think is just frickin' nifty. Now again, let's put on our consistency pants. If we are double expanding after being on 2 base for a while as Zerg, what are some things that we should probably not do? Probably shouldn't be investing too heavily in gas. If we took 4 bases kind of early, investing in gas makes much more sense then. Oh god, how am I going to... I mean, that's true, but crap, how do I describe that? When I rewatched this game, I'm like, yeah, that's totally clear, and then I just moved on and didn't think to think through an explanation. Okay, here's the best way to think of it. Let's say we're early in the game, so early that we have something like 50 workers. If we have 4 bases and 50 workers, and we think about minerals, well, we're actually not gaining any more efficiency from a 4th base, are we? We're really not. We could have 3 bases and 50 workers mining minerals, and we'd be good. Just as good as if we had 4 bases and 50 guys. So, if you have 4 bases early on, and you have just 50 drones, you can actually make use of that 4th expansion by doing something gas heavy. So, for instance, getting a fairly early 4 base setup and emphasizing mutalisks and infestors while you drone up. Cool. Or emphasizing, hell, just infestors or something like that. That's reasonable. Now, if you have been delayed on your third, let's say you wanted a third anyways, it's very common to do a double expand technique. So this is when you're around 72 drones. So suddenly you actually are gaining some benefit of minerals from taking these expansions now. But the problem is with transitions if you're a little bit later. If you throw down the 4 geysers and put guys in the 4 geysers, there's often this transitionary problem where you just... Is that how you want to say it? Where you die a little bit too quickly. Oh, no, sorry. There's the explanation. If you have been on 2 bases and you go to 4 bases, if you try to go for gas too early, you're in a mineral problem, right? With 75 workers, you haven't been able to get as many minerals on 2 bases. So when you get to 4 bases, what you really need is minerals. That's what you're really short on. Minerals are going to be what really saves you against being attacked in multiple locations. All the big mobile units tend to be a bit heavy on the minerals. So if you invest in gas a little bit too early, you just don't even really have the minerals to be able to make good use of it at that point in time. Ha! There we go. So, a lot of Zergs do this thing where they double expand and kind of de-emphasize the gas for just a bit while they get themselves on their feet, and then they flood with a whole bunch of gas for their high tech. So, boom. Taking it out. I wanted to see actually how long I could go in a daily with that thing rolled up like that until the chat was 100% discussion about the sleeve. And it turns out not long, not long. We are 20 minutes in. So let me actually zoom forward just a little bit more. I'm actually going to go through this segment a little bit faster. I spent kind of a long discussion on that gas thing. So here's the infestation pit, the baneling nest. So if we were on 3 bases, we'd be getting these geysers a little earlier, relying a little bit more heavily on the infestors for defense. Here, because we're spread out and we can't get that early gas, we're going to be relying a little bit more on lings. So we'd be more willing to invest our gas into lingy things than into a ton of infestors. Let me just speed things along right now. There's 1 upgrade. Upgrade number 2 should be happening shortly. See, look at this. Still no gas. Still no gas. And unit station, 62 drones. Very common technique. Very, very, very common technique. And this I kind of liked from TaeJa as well, this command center. I mean, what's going on back in TaeJa's base, I don't think is that significant for the discussion purposes for today. So cool. I'm going to freeze it right here. And this is sort of the lift-off point that I want to be looking at for the rest of the daily, where we have this medevac starport. We have a lot of Marines coming out. There was some cool transitioning that TaeJa did with how he rearranged his buildings on his add-ons. Not something I really want to focus on too much. He's going to wind up with a pretty standard mix. 2 factories making tanks, 1 starport going medevac, and 6 barracks with 5 reactors. Pretty standard looking mix. Alright, excuse me. Was that 7 barracks? That's a little bit less common at this early phase, but very quickly, by like 13, 14 players, we'll have like 9 barracks, is a pretty typical number. And there we see the double upgrades, and this upgrade, and that upgrade. I mean, he's kind of just getting everything that he didn't get already. And likewise, Stephano has a somewhat unusual thing, having these 4 bases, delaying getting the gas at his 2 other expansions until he had a lot of minerals. So cool. First spending minerals on things like spines and spores and lings, and then backing up to get the gas as he's getting hive. So this is the situation we're in. In parts 2 and 3, we're going to be exploring a ton about the idea of how these compositions change as these players begin to have big army exchanges where they lose everything. And that's going to be the real key, that cool mid and late game stuff that we don't get a lot of practice with. Let's go ahead and go to a break, because when we come back in like just 2 minutos, we are going to have the opportunity of a lifetime watching this game. Yeah!